Have you ever felt those soft, deliberate footsteps following you from the kitchen to the hallway, from the bedroom to the couch, as if your cat were quietly shadowing your every move? At first, it can seem simple enough. Maybe they want food. Maybe they want food. Maybe they were being clingy in that mysterious way cats sometimes are. But if you've lived with a cat long enough, you know there is often something more subtle hiding beneath the surface. There is a particular kind of silence cats carry with them, and when they choose to keep pace with us, it can feel almost like a question without words. Why this room? Why this room? Why now? Why me? A cat that follows you is not always asking for something obvious. Sometimes it is observing. Sometimes it is measuring the world through your presence. And sometimes, in ways we rarely stop to consider, it may be saying, I feel safest when you are near. That idea changes everything, because what looks like neediness can, in many cases, be something far richer. Trust, familiarity, shared territory, emotional security, or simply a quiet desire to belong in the same space as the person they've chosen. Cats are often misunderstood as distant creatures, but their attachment is not always loud or easy to read. It can arrive as a tail around your legs, a gaze from the doorway, or a body that settles just close enough to remind you that you are not alone. And for many people, that is where the heart of the mystery begins. You close a door, and your cat waits on the other side. You stand up, and they rise with you. You move through your home, and somehow they move with you, as if your life has become the path they trust most. Is it dependence? Curiosity? Anxiety? Or is it something deeper, something more human than we expect to find in an animal so often called independent? If you've ever wondered why your cat seems glued to you, you were not imagining it. And you're not alone. Many cat guardians experience this same quiet following, this invisible thread between themselves and a creature that seems to understand far more than it lets on. If this kind of connection has ever made you pause, take a moment to like this video and tell me in the comments, does your cat follow you everywhere, meow when you leave, or act unsettled when a door closes between you? Because once we begin to look closely, these small behaviors may reveal a much larger story. A cat that follows you is often speaking in a language older than words. It may begin with something simple, a soft step behind your heel as you move from the kitchen to the hallway, then from the hallway to the bedroom, as if your presence is the one thing in the house that gives shape to the day. And because humans are quick to measure love in our own terms, we sometimes call that behavior neediness. But for a cat, closeness is rarely so shallow. Think about what your cat is actually doing. It is not clinging in the same way a child might. It is observing, choosing, returning. In feline psychology, that matters. Cats are not built to follow blindly. They are cautious creatures, deeply aware of safety, sound, and rhythm. So when a cat decides to trail you through the house, it is often making a quiet statement. I know this space, and I know you. You are part of what feels secure. There is something almost poetic in that. A cat may sit in the doorway while you work, pause beside the sink while you wash a dish, or appear the moment you stand up, as if it sensed movement before you did. Some people laugh and say, he's my shadow. But shadows do not choose. Cats do. And that choice can come from trust, curiosity, or simply the desire to remain near the center of a familiar world. Sometimes, of course, there is more beneath the surface. A cat that follows every step, cries when you disappear behind a closed door, or seems unable to settle unless it can see you may be asking for reassurance. Not because it is weak, but because something in its world feels uncertain. Change in routine, loneliness, tension in the home, even a subtle shift in your own mood can alter the emotional weather around a cat. They feel far more than a cat. And yet, for many cats, following you is not a warning sign at all. It is affection in its quietest form. A cat may not leap into your arms or call your name, but it may choose to share your path, your silence, your routine. That, too, is intimacy. If this sounds familiar, Take a moment to like the video, just a small sign that you understand how deeply these subtle gestures matter. Because once you begin to notice them, your cat starts to look less like a mystery and more like a companion, inviting you into its inner world. So the real question is not only why your cat follows you, but what it believes it is following into. Safety? Curiosity? Bond? Or something more than both? And once you see that difference, the next signs become much easier to read. There is something quietly remarkable about the way a cat chooses to stay near you. Not in the loud, obvious way a dog might, but in a softer rhythm, as if your presence creates a kind of gravity. You walk toward the kitchen, and there they are. You close the bathroom door, and a small voice appears on the other side. You settle into a chair, and suddenly your cat is nearby, watching, listening. For many people, that closeness can feel flattering at first, then puzzling, and sometimes even exhausting. You may ask with a smile, while your cat blinks at you as if the answer should be obvious. But in the world of cats, proximity is rarely meaningless. It can be a language without words, a way of saying, "You know this space because you are in it. I feel safe where you are. I want to be part of what you do." And that changes everything. A cat that follows you room to room is not always asking for food or attention in the simplest sense. Sometimes it is observing your patterns, learning your movements, reading your moods. Cats are deeply aware creatures, and they build their sense of security through familiarity. Your footsteps, your routines, the sound of a cabinet opening, the light shifting in a doorway, all of it becomes part of the emotional map they carry in their minds. When they move with you, they are often tracing that map, staying inside the world they trust. Yet there is also a tenderness in it that many people overlook. Some cats follow because they have formed a bond that feels steady and real. They are not clinging out of weakness, but connecting out of confidence. A cat that can rest near you, walk beside you, or wait for you at the door may be showing the quiet architecture of attachment. It is a small act. Of course, not every shadowing step is the same. Sometimes a cat follows because it is unsettled, unsure, or seeking reassurance. The difference is in the tone of the behavior, the body language, the small signals that tell a larger story. And learning to notice those differences is part of becoming fluent in your cat's emotional world. If this is making you look at your own cat a little differently, that is a good thing. It means you are beginning to see beyond the surface. And if your cat seems especially devoted or insists on being involved in every corner of your day, you may be witnessing something far more meaningful than neediness. You may be seeing trust in motion, one quiet step at a time. A cat that follows you everywhere is often not demanding attention in the simple way people imagine. More often, it is reading the room, reading your movements, and deciding that your presence means something worth preserving. That quiet trail from the kitchen to the hallway, from the sofa to the bedroom, can be less about dependency and more about participation. Your cat may not be saying, "I cannot be alone." It may be saying, in many homes, this begins almost invisibly. You stand up to make coffee, and there they are. You close a door, and a soft paw appears at the threshold. You move from one task to another, and a small pair of eyes keeps pace with you like a shadow that has grown affectionate. At first, it can feel amusing, then it can feel constant. And if the cat meows every time you leave a room, or sits outside the bathroom as if guarding a secret, you may start to wonder whether something is wrong. But in the psychology of cats, closeness is rarely meaningless. Cats are deeply observant creatures. They build maps of routines, and they learn which moments belong to safety, which moments bring food, and which moments bring comfort. When a cat follows you, it may be entering your rhythm because your rhythm has become part of its sense of stability. In that way, the behavior is not childish or weak. It is intelligent. It is relational. It is a small act of trust repeated over and over again. There is also something tender in the way cats choose their people. They do not love with noise. They love with nearness. Sometimes with a blink. sometimes with the sound of paws on wood flooring, sometimes by simply being where you are. For some cats, following is not anxiety at all. It is companionship in its purest form, a way of saying, "This is my place too, because you are in it." Still, not every constant follower is at peace. If the behavior comes with frantic vocalizing, distress when you leave, or an inability to settle even when you are home, the message may be different. That is why it helps to look closely, not just at what your cat does, but at how it feels while doing it. A calm companion is very different from a worried heart trying to stay one step ahead of loss. And if this sounds familiar, take a moment to notice the pattern with fresh eyes. You may even find yourself smiling at the small devotion you once misunderstood. If your cat does this too, leave a like and tell me in the comments. Does it follow you everywhere, cry when you disappear, or seem uneasy when a door closes? In the next part, we'll go deeper into what this behavior can reveal about your cat's emotional world. There is a quiet kind of intelligence in the way a cat chooses its path. Not the loud, obvious kind we recognize in people, but a patient. A cat that follows you from the kitchen to the bedroom, from the sofa to the hallway, is not always asking for food or attention in the simplest sense. Sometimes it is doing something far more subtle, staying close to the center of its world. Think of how a cat watches a doorway, listens to the sound of your footsteps, and lifts its head before you even turn. That is not random habit. In many homes, your movement becomes part of your cat's rhythm, almost like the ticking of a clock in a room where safety lives. Some cats follow because they have learned that your presence predicts warmth, routine, and calm. Others follow because they are curious, because your actions carry meaning, and they do not want to miss the story. To a cat, you are not just a provider. You are a landscape worth studying. And then there is trust. Deep, simple trust. A cat that stays near you may be saying, without words, "I feel secure where you are." In the language of feline behavior, this can be one of the highest compliments possible. They may not climb into your lap, they may not purr loudly, but they remain within reach, quietly claiming your orbit as part of their own. That closeness can be a kind of chosen companionship, not dependence. Still, not every shadow at your heels is the same. Some cats follow out of mild anxiety, especially when the home feels unpredictable or when they have learned that separation brings discomfort. Others become glued to one person because that person represents stability in a world that can feel too large, too loud, or too changing. The difference lies in the tone of the behavior. A relaxed cat will wander, pause, explore, and return. A stressed cat may pace, vocalize, and seem unable to settle once you leave its sight. If you've ever watched your cat appear in the doorway just as you stood up, you know the feeling. A small creature, so certain of your movement, so invested in your next step. It can be touching, even humbling. And if this sounds familiar, take a moment to like this video, because sometimes the smallest feline behaviors open the deepest human questions. The more you notice, the more you realize that following is not always clinginess. It can be a conversation. A cat may be inviting you to notice its world, to share a space, to acknowledge a bond that has been growing quietly all along. And once you begin to see that, you may start asking an even more important question. What, exactly, is your cat trying to tell you when it refuses to let you go alone? So the next time your cat pads after you from the kitchen to the hallway, from the hallway to the bedroom, and from the bedroom back again, maybe pause before calling it clinging. Maybe see it for what it often is, a quiet, living form of trust. A cat does not give its attention carelessly. When it chooses your footsteps, your routine, your presence, it is often saying something far more tender than neediness. It is saying, "I feel safe where you are." That does not mean every shadow on four paws is simple affection. Sometimes a cat follows because it is uneasy, because the world has changed, because it needs reassurance in a language it cannot speak with words. But even then, the message is not weakness. It is connection seeking balance. And when you learn to listen with patience instead of irritation, the relationship changes. A closed door becomes less of a wall. A meow at your heels becomes less of a demand. It becomes a conversation. There is something deeply human in that. We all want to be chosen. We all want to be followed, at least by someone who cares. And perhaps that is why this small behavior can feel so moving once you understand it. Your cat is not trying to control your life. It may simply be trying to live within it, near the warmth of your habits, close to the rhythm of your day. In its own quiet way, it may be building a bridge toward you, step by step, room by room. If you've noticed this in your own home, take a moment to reflect on what your cat's behavior is telling you. Is it comfort? Curiosity? Stress? A need to belong? The answer may be different from one day to the next, and that is what makes the bond so alive. If this helped you see your cat a little more clearly, give the video a gentle like, and tell me in the comments, does your cat follow you everywhere? Meow when you leave, stay glued to you, or seem anxious when you close a door? If you want more insights like this, subscribe, because there is always more beneath the surface of a cat's silence.